Hey there, welcome back. We're going to go ahead and start our playthrough. And I came up with my AI behavior that we're going to do. So the yellow player, which is over here on the right of me, that's going to be me. So we're going to try to play a balanced game, and we're going to train our workers, try to have highly trained workers, which will help us to do various things in the game when they're more highly trained. What does that mean to play a balanced game? It just means we're going to do a little bit of everything, right? So we're going to just see how that plays. Purple is our Trump character because purple is the sign of crazy. And he's not crazy. He just seems crazy. And anyways, what he's going to do is he's going to sell shares. He's not going to be afraid to sell shares. Selling shares reduces your endgame score. It reduces it by 10%, in fact. So every time you sell shares, you get money immediately, but then you're going to have to pay back 10% of your money at the end of the game. So it's a high risk, high reward kind of thing, and he's going to focus on doing contracts and connecting to Trieste. That's his goal. He wants to be the first because he's going to have a great railroad, and it's going to be great tracks, and they're all going to be great. All right, so with that being said, how many shares is he going to sell? How many percents is he going to do? I don't know. I mean, I think we're going to just have to play it and see how it goes. But one of the biggest things with this game is people don't want to sell shares because selling shares causes you to lose 10%. Now, how do you win? You win by having the most money. The money in this game is your points. So by giving up 10% of your money at the end of the game, you're giving up 10% of your points. So you have to make $100 to keep 90, right? If you're giving up 10%. Well, selling your shares, like let's look at a share board here. If you sell your shares at $40 a share, that's a really awful deal, right? So you gain $40, and at the end of the game, you may have to pay, $200, right? Because you have $2,000 in your hand. That would be an awful exchange, right? But if you get your share price to go up, you can sell shares for $240. And if you have $2,000 in your hand, you're going to pay back $200, and you actually keep $40 profit. But that $240 helped you to invest in the game because you have to spend money to make money, right? So that $240 helps you to buy stuff in the game, which then gives you even more money, right? So you have to take the money that you get from selling your shares and do something with it. If you just take it and bury it under your mattress, clearly you're not going to be doing much with the talents your master gave you. So anyways, players seem to be adverse to even wanting to do that because nobody wants to even give up 10%. So what I want to try is maybe it works, like maybe being a little bit aggressive like that, because having that extra boost of money early in the game might actually give you an edge that lets you just move a little quicker than everybody else. Now, the red player is going to be all about income. So they're going to get the Semmering token. That's the name of this token, by the way. This is a Semmering token. I'm only assuming that that's the name of that track in that particular region. Maybe it's the name of the bridge, the Semmering Bridge. I don't know anything about the history of this, so please forgive me. It's called the Semmering token, and that Semmering token will double the passenger income that you get at the end. So at the end of the game, you get to collect your passenger income one final time, and this Semmering token lets you double it. So this player is going to focus on getting a lot of passenger cars. They're not going to worry about contracts so much. They want passenger cars and use that as a way to win the game. I sort of have a sense that you need to do a little bit of everything to win, but we're going to polarize some of these AIs just to see how it plays, right? If I were to take this and sit with my friends, they may do the similar thing. They may try to, I'm going to try an all-passenger approach and see if that makes me enough money to actually win the game. And then we may realize, like, really quick, oh gosh, that's not going to win you the game at all. Now, this approach might actually be superior if nobody actually connects to Trieste, because that is a thing, right? If nobody connects to Trieste, the contracts are worthless. And therefore, whoever wins the game is whoever has the most money without the contract income. So this is a very interesting thing that, depending on how the other players play, maybe nobody will connect to Trieste. Because remember, if Trump connects to Trieste and he was unable to fulfill his contracts, he loses money. So then he no longer wants to connect to Trieste. That's the key thing to understand. Just because a player decides at the beginning of the game that that's what they want to do, as the game plays out, if he can't fulfill his contracts, he may go, oops, that's not a good idea. And then he may change his mind. So this is like that player who's trying to just make money without worrying about contracts. So I have a feeling this player is not going to do very well, but let's find out. And then the teal player is going to be balanced like me, but their big thing is they won't sell stocks. So we're going to play the conservative player that refuses to give up 10% of his income because he thinks that that's stupid. He doesn't want to give up any of his money. So he will have to find another way to make money that is not selling stocks. So my guess is that, so this will play a lot like the Trump player because they are going to do contracts, right? They're going to do the similar actions that the Trump player are doing, but they're not going to sell stocks. So therefore, what are they going to do then? And if they don't sell their stocks, then that means they have to find another way to make their money. And that's the key part of this, that we're going to see how that plays out. Okay? So that's the AI. And I know for those of you who just want to see playthrough, that was a lot of time spent talking about the AI, but we are doing schizophrenic play here. And the only way I will ever do schizophrenic play is I need to have a personality. Otherwise, this becomes a very boring experience for me. Okay, so we have to go in player order and bid on how much influence we want to have in the game. And one thing I did forget to do during setup is I never gave everybody their money. So let me look that up real quick in the rule book here. It's the excellent rule book. So the amount of money everybody gets is 140 in a 4-player game. So we'll do 20, 40, 60, 80. You know what? I'm going to pause. I don't need you to watch me count out money, but I'm basically going to give everybody $80 in 20s and then 10s for everything else. Maybe I don't need to be so bad. No, I don't. It's 140, so let's just do it this way. I'm going to just do... I don't think I need to give out such small amounts. There's literally 100, and there's 40. Now, you might be thinking, okay, Jeff, you have poker chips. Why are you doing this? That's true. I should probably be using poker chips. I have to tell you that this money quality is super good, though. Like, it's not paper money. This is like cardstock, and it's super nice. But yeah, that's 140 for each player. So I will pause it while I do this. I just got enough for one player here. Okay, I have 140 for every. Let's talk about some basic concepts. I did cover some of the major ones, but basically, we all start over there in Vienna, right? So we each have a train station in Vienna, so that means we can branch out in any of the directions, and that city right there is Vienna. The little player marker, the meeple markers above Vienna, are factory positions. So in a 4-player game, we get to use all of them. And there's 5 locations up there. So basically 5 factories can be built, and it's first come, first serve. So if one player builds all 5 factories, then the other 4 don't get to build any, okay? So as you're looking at the various hub or city spots, for example, this city here, when you connect to the city, you're gonna get 1 business bonus. They have an official name for it, but business bonus is good enough. So you'll get to do one thing. You get to choose one of 3 bonuses that you get to give your company or to yourself. And so this will be like whoever connects there first draws the topmost token. So this gives you 1 bonus. This one over here gives you 3, and then the next player gets 2, and then the third player gets 1. So it is not possible for one player to get all 3 of these tokens. You only get 1 ever. So if you're the first one to connect to this city, you get 3. If you connect to this city some other way, you don't get the second token. So when you lay track, the basic principle is you're only allowed to lay track going into a hub or city and out of a city. So one track coming in and one track going out. So basically just two connections to that city, right? If you have a train station, which is what you have in Vienna, up there, right? There's a train station, and you can build two more. That's what this is for. You're allowed to build two more. If you build a train station, and that's what this little location here stands for, then it means that you can connect or go out every connection. So Zagreb here is a weird place to build a train station because you're only allowed to go in and out, and that's all this lets you do anyways. So there's no point in having a train station there. Now, why would you do it? The reason you would do it is when you build a train station, this is the round order, and right here at this step, you collect income. And so right now, every player is going to collect 10 income for their train station. When you build your second train station, now you get another 10 income. So it does increase your income to build a train station. So if you need one desperately to be built somewhere, you could do it there, but it makes no sense outside of that. Now remember, this is a randomly placed tile per the setup. So this could have just as easily gone there, right? And then you would need a train station badly in a place like that. So that's the thing to bear in mind, is that, just because this is in a weird spot and you'd be like, well, why would I ever want a train station there? These were randomly placed. So don't lose sleep over it. Okay, the little meeple pictures are factories. And so you could build another factory here. Once those 5 up above in Vienna are taken, you could build a factory here, but obviously you need to be connected via your track first. It has to be in your network. And then what this little symbol means is there's always, no matter what tile gets randomly placed here, there's always a space for a factory. And then of course that space uses whatever the cost is written on there. And so you would have to, this is an extra factory location that's just permanently on the board. And I'm realizing there are some spots on the board, for example, Bruck, what is that? Bruck AD Moore? Holy cow, what kind of name is that? So Bruck AD Moore is imprinted on the board. So this one never changes. And same with WR Neustadt. Now, these little numbers that you see in a radial star, that is how much worker skill is needed to connect to that city. So if I want to, for example, connect this city to this city with a track, let's say I'm already here and I want to put a track here to connect to this and another track to connect to that. I would need 7 workers strength to be able to do that. Your workers are here, and this is the training track, and these are level 1 workers. So you can see there's a radial star located right there. That's a 1. So this is 2 strength points of workers. So I would not be able to connect to Zagreb at all because I need 5 points. But let's say I was here and I needed to go there. I could use both of these workers at 1 point each, and that I would move them up to show that I put them to work. And then that's enough to connect to this 2 city that's there. So is that making some sense? I hope it is. I know you can't raise your hand and ask more questions, but the idea here is so you need highly trained workers to be able to connect to these higher numbered cities, and that's another factor you got to keep in the back of your mind. So yes, this is a spot for a station. These are spots for factories. This number here is used for various things, but the biggest thing it's used for is when you're laying track on these little special locations, the cost that's written on both of the cities in between these determines how much you pay to lay the track. I also believe, I need to look it up real quick, but I'm pretty sure like if you want to lay this station here, it costs 40. Like that's the cost to lay a station in that city. So that number is also used for that purpose. And I'm also pretty sure that that's the cost that you have to pay to lay a factory in addition to the regular cost. I need to look that up. In fact, instead of guessing, let me pause and I will look it up right now. Okay, yep, I nailed it. So this is the cost for the train station, and this is so normally when you build a factory, the cost is written on the factory board. We haven't gotten into that yet, but what this is saying is that you ignore the cost on the factory board, and it's just this cost right here. So this is a 20 cost factory, which is dirt cheap. Like this factory location will be much more expensive because this one is not this cost. This one you will use the board for. This one, you don't use the board cost and you just pay a flat 20. Now you could have gotten unlucky and had a 50 there, right? But just because of the way the randomness worked, I mean, this is actually that's a very nice place to build a factory, dirt cheap. So some AC/DC going on there. The other thing that you'll notice, especially on the permanently written boards, like that +2, what that means is you're going to get 2 influence points for connecting to that city, so you automatically move up 2. Now, other locations that have the random tiles on them, you'll see that there's a +3 written along the top, so you got to pay attention to that. And then, of course, there are some locations where the factory cost is written like right on the station. And here it is. This guy right here. This one is a case where the factory cost is 40, which is interesting because that matches what's up here. But there is no, but again, you ignore the board and you just pay the 40. What this one's saying is you ignore the board and you pay whatever's on the tile, which can be random. Then last but not least, certain locations like here and the hubs will collect resources. So you could deliver resources to them and then you get paid for that. And the pay is actually quite good, or it can be. And there's also ways to score more points. And we'll get into that a little bit later as well. Just a reminder, the game ends if anybody connects to Trieste in any round that they connect. So if they connect by round 3, the game ends in 3 rounds. I highly doubt that's possible to do in 3 rounds, but I'm sure somebody will prove me wrong. Or the game ends after 8 rounds, which is denoted at the top. You start at round 1 and we just go right across. Okay, so I'm not going to get into all the actions yet and what they do. I've sort of actually briefly covered some of them, but I want you to at least in your mind have the idea of, okay, I need the most money to win, but almost everything in this game costs money, so you're always spending points in the hopes of getting more points later, right? So you have to spend money to make money in this game, and money is how you win. So right now, I'm at 140 points in this game, right? So what we're going to do now is we're going to bid on how much influence we want to start the game with. We are all at 0. So if I bid $50, for example, I'm going to start at 50 on this track. And turn order is always determined by whoever's the furthest along this track. Now, the game rulebook flatly advises you to always bid at least to the second city. So the green hub city is at 40, the brown hub city is at 80, and they're advising you to at least bid 80. Now, if this was down to 60, they would advise you to bid 60, right? So it's just dictated by where the hub ends up. You could, of course, try to bid as much. This would bid all your money, which would be a little crazy, actually. But it would cost you all your money to get to here. So why are you bidding for so much player order stuff? Being able to go first is only helpful because if you're trying to lay track, you get to connect to a city before anybody else, so you'll get the bonus at that city before anybody else. You'll get to deliver goods to that city before anybody else. So there is some really nice advantages to going first. I don't want to poo-poo that. Maybe at the very start of the game, it's not quite as good, but there's definitely a reason why you would want to go first. But the biggest reason why they're recommending that you have at least 2 cities in your influence, remember, if these cities won't do business with you unless your influence is at least this high. So this brown city doesn't want anything to do with you if your influence isn't high enough to reach their threshold. Okay, so why is that important? Well, one of the actions in the game is you get to hire workers. And I just explained that this is only 2 strength worth of workers, right? So like they're level 1. I can put them up here and I get 2 points of strength. And this here is, these radial stars are like effort, right? I need 5 effort to connect to that city. So that means I need at least 3 more workers here at level 1, right? So the mechanism for hiring workers is something we need to talk about before you do this bid. That mechanism is here. And so these represent the different hubs. So this is the green hub, which is the at 40 influence. And then the brown hub is at 80 over here. And then the blue and the white hubs are even higher. This one's at 120 and that one's at 140. If you don't have enough influence, you can't hire workers here. So let's say you're the 4th player to go, because that's usually the worst spot to be in, right? So first player goes, and you only bid enough to be influencing green. So you only bid, let me show you again. You thought, okay, 80 is way too much. I'm only going to bid 40. By bidding only 40, you keep more money in your hand to play the game. So there is an advantage to that. Now, if you only bid this 40, that means this is the only place you can hire workers. And everybody else outbid you because they followed the game rulebook recommendations and they bid at least 80 or more. So let's just assume that that's the situation. Because you bid 40, your influence is the lowest, so you're going to go last in turn order. So then everybody knows that you only bid 40, and this is where you get screwed, or you can, and players can really dink with you. The cost to hire workers is here. So let's say the first player goes, and they decide to hire 3 workers from the green city. So the first worker costs 10, second worker costs 20, third worker costs 30. So now this moves up, right? So they bought 3 workers. The next worker is going to cost 40. So they paid $60 to hire 3 workers. Then player 2 goes. He does the same thing, but he's going to use this column, 10, 20, 30. He pays $60. He hires 3 workers. The third player goes, and they're like, oh gosh, I don't want to go to the orange city. Those workers cost 40. So they're going to go to the next one, which is brown, and do 10, 20, 30, and only pay $60 for theirs. So now you're the 4th player. You need to hire workers. The only hub you have a connection or influence over is green. And then the other players basically screwed you over. And it does require the other players to be smart enough to realize that you only have enough influence over one hub, because those other players could have taken the brown hub. But if they're smart, they're going to take this hub because they know that that screws you. And so, yeah, if you want a worker, you have to start at 40 and then 50, and then everyone after that is 50. So if you want to hire the same 3 workers somebody else did for green, you're going to spend 90 plus another 50, which is 140, right? So you're going to spend 140 instead of 60, which is what they spent, okay? So let's bring all that together and do the math. So you spent 140 versus their 60, which means that you're going to be spending, what is that, $80 more than them. So you went cheap and only bid 40 in the beginning. They bid 80, which was $40 more than you. So they started the game with $40 less than you, but you just had to pay $80 more than them to hire the same 3 guys that they just hired. All right, so you seeing, is that helping you to understand the importance of having a minimum of an 80 bid? Because in that same scenario, let's say everybody bid a minimum of 80. Those players go, they hire their 3 workers, right? Player 1, player 2, player 3. They all do the same action. They hire 3 workers. It's your turn. Guess what? There's still one more column here waiting for you. So they did nothing to hurt your game. So that saving $40 in the beginning is a huge risk, because the other players can get you to the point where you just don't have any workers, or you're going to have to pay out your teeth to get those workers. Now, there is an action in the game where you can spend $40 to move from here to there. So you could choose to bid 40, but then one of your actions in the game is to bid to basically pay again later to move up to here. And technically money-wise, it's the same. It's just that you wasted one of your actions. So there is a way to get out of your predicament, right? So if you don't want to spend $150 because the other players did screw you over, you could then spend an action to move to here, not do the $150, but then on the next action after that, go spend $60 and hire from the brown city. So there's ways to get out of your situation. I'm not saying that you're going to be hosed completely, but hiring workers is one of the first things, at least in my experience, people like to do. So anyways, I may have over-explained that, but it's a very important strategy that I think new players can fall victim to. And the rule book is recommending that you bid at least 80, and that's why. It makes total sense once you understand the mechanics of the game. Obviously, on your very first playthrough, you may be like, oh, let's just play, and then you don't realize you're hosing yourself by doing so. Okay. So with all that said, here's how it's going to work. I'm going to bid first, and then, pay whatever amount I need to pay. Then I'm going to have everybody else is bidding 80. Okay. I know that they're going to bid 80 because they're going to follow the game recommendations. Okay. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll a die, and for every die that I roll, they're going to go up by $10. So if they roll a 1, it's just going to be 80. A 2 would put them to 90, and then so forth. So they could go all the way up to 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 would get them to 130. I think 130 might be too much. In a normal game, things aren't this high. This actually got way higher than than a fixed game. So the first two cities are usually not this amount. To bid 130 when you start the game at 140, how on earth are you going to make money? You got to make money somehow, and that's the thing that there's only so many ways to make money in this game, and so that could be dangerous. And so I may want to rethink this. That was going to be my plan. Maybe I can make it so 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6. They're just going to go a little bit higher because they want to be first in turn order, or something like that. So if I want to beat them, I'm going to have to bid at least 110. That kind of thing. I know it's a cheesy way to do it, but I don't know of any other way to do a blind bidding thing against yourself. So. Okay, so with that being said, I am going to bid 80. I'm not going to go any higher. And so here's my 100. And I take 20 back. So I'm at $60 to start the game. All right, so then we're going to just go. So I'm here. Remember, I'm first in player order right now. So I get to take that 80 spot first. So now we'll go with purple. We'll roll the die. I rolled a 1, so that means he's also bidding 80. And I'm just going to go to the purple player and do the same thing. Take away 100. Now, they always go to the highest spot they possible, but they never overcome me. So since I was there first, I retain first player. So I'm at higher player order than that person. So let's go to the teal player. We rolled a 3, so that means they're going to do 90. So I will take $100, give them 10. So they will go first so far. And then the red player rolled a 1, so he's also bidding 80. And I think that worked out. So of the ways to make money in this game, just to help you, because you might be wondering, well, what if you started the game with only $10? What kind of ways do you make money? Well, way number 1 is the income step, which is right here on a given round. But on the very first round, see this here? We start the game here, so you don't do the income step on the first round. So you wouldn't get this income until round 2. And right now your income is only $10, so you're not going to be making a lot of money. Another way to make money, which is not a very efficient way, is to come here and you just get $10 for each action that you go there for. A third way you make money is you sell stocks. So you can make $40 because you have an investor willing to pay $40 for your stock. But remember, then you lose 10% of your money at the end of the game for that $40. That's not a good deal. Another way to make money is to deliver goods to a city that needs goods. Now, if you are this green player here, this is another reason why you don't want to bid only for the green. That green city is all the way over here, and you're starting the game all the way up there. That's not an easy city to connect to. So to deliver goods to that city to make money, remember, you can only deliver goods to a city that you have influence for. So that green city is too far away. You're not going to be able to make some quick money delivering goods there. And you have to lay track. There's all kinds of stuff you need to do. The closest city to our starting point is brown and white. And because we all have influence over brown, there might be a big temptation for the players to go that way. So that way they can connect to that brown city. So that's part of the strategy here, right, folks? You got to really think about a lot of things, just even in the opening bid. Okay, so looking at this, teal is going to go first, and then player order basically gets preserved otherwise, and we can now finally start our game. So everybody's player board has the exact same round stuff on it, and like I said, we skip all these steps. We start here, which is the action phase. And then this is just checking to see if the game ended, which is not going to happen. So we're really only doing one step in round one, and everybody gets 2 actions, and teal goes first. So I'm going to consult my little AI card and figure out what teal needs to do. I'm going to pause. Okay, so the teal player and the purple player are basically going to both be gunning for contracts. To do contracts means you have to build factories. So that's something they will want to do. Purple is willing to sell shares to get the money to do so, whereas teal is not. That's the big difference. And then the red player and myself, we're doing, the red player is going to go for income with passenger cars, and they're not going to do the factory route. So we're going to just see how well they do. And then, of course, with us, I wrote down that we're going to try to train our workers. So we're going to we want to have high quality workers. I want to see how that plays out for us. Now, I haven't explained what all the actions do, and what does training workers do. You got probably a basic idea because I showed you the radial star, which is called effort. But the trained workers also give you other potential bonuses as well. And let's do that now per the actions. So I think I really am going to do exactly like we had just played out. Oh, I'm sorry, I grabbed the wrong thing. For teal's action, they're going to hire some workers. Because you need workers to do various things in this game. And you consume workers when you build factories. Like the worker actually gets completely taken off of your player board. So if you start the game with 2 level 1 workers, you can at most build 2 factories, and then you have to hire more workers after that point. Now, we can build factories immediately. We have 5 spots for them. Let's talk about that action real quick, because that seems to be like a central thing that we need to do. To build a factory, you would take this action right here. And so this action will let you either build a train station, which is what the top piece is, or you're going to build a factory at the bottom. And then you have this is just showing all the different types of factories. So then if you build a factory, you have to place one of your workers, one of the 2 that we have, into that factory location. Now, when you place that worker, I'm just going to show you this player board here, you'll see that there's this 2 here. A level 1 worker, and it could be spent worker or training worker. It doesn't matter where they are on this part. If you take them off the player board, they're permanently gone. You don't get them back ever. And what they do is they generate 2 of that resource. So let's say I build a coal factory, they'll generate 2 coal. But if I had a level 3 worker, they would generate 3 coal or 4 coal. I'm sorry, level 2 worker, level 3 worker, 4 coal. When you generate a factory, however many resources you generate with it is all you get for the whole game. You can never generate more. The only way you can get more coal is to build yet another coal factory somewhere else, okay? So that's an important concept to understand. So once you build a factory, so you could go for early factories, but you're going to have less resources to use to make money for you or to do whatever you need to do. But if you wait until you have a level 3 trained worker, you might be waiting too long. Like the game may already be getting ahead of you and you lost all your chances. Because remember, the factory locations are limited. First come, first serve. So these people who are building the low-level factories are going to take those spots. And by the time you have a worker that's high level, those spots might already be gone. Okay, so it's some of the risk you have to deal with. So that is what you need to understand when you're building a factory. So it all gets back to your workers. So one of the things that we can do when you build a factory, there's not you're just putting resources on the board, but we're not connected to any of the cities. We're in Vienna, but we have no track or anything laid. So in order to deliver those goods somewhere, it's a little pointless at the moment. The only reason you would build a factory now is because you want to take one of those 5 spots. But even if the other 3 players take a spot, you still have 2 spots left for you. So you can sort of like wait. It's sort of like drafting a kicker in fantasy football. There may be the best kicker in the league, but you don't need to take them in the first round, right? Because there's other players that you need to take instead. You could probably get them in the 3rd round. And even if you don't get them, the second best is almost as good. So that's sort of like the factory thing here. You can wait until other people do a run on factories, and you'll still be able to get your one factory as long as you prioritize it after they start making their run, okay? So you don't have to be the first to claim a factory, is what I'm trying to get at, strategy-wise. Okay, what other actions can Teal do? And I'll give you a brief overview. This one is a pass. We don't want to do this one. In fact, I'm going to put it up at the top because it's an action that we don't use very much. And so why put that closer to the camera? So those 2 are going to go up. I'm going to move everything else down and give you a better view of the other more important actions. Okay, this one is raising your stock price. So you can do that, and it actually doesn't even cost you any money. So if you go here, you can make your stock go from 40 to 60 bucks, but then see that little -1 there, -2, etc. That's how many influence you have to go backwards here. So you're going to lose influence if you do that. But you can make your stock price go up, or at any time you can make your stock price go down, and that doesn't require any influence at all. And you can go down multiple spots. Now, why would you want to go down? The biggest reason is, so let's say I go up here, right? Now my stock is worth 60, but I only have enough investors to buy it at 40. So now I need to desperately sell because I need money. I could maybe drop my stock to 40 and now I can sell it, right? That's the logic. I don't know if that's a smart game, to be quite honest with you, but it's there. It's a mechanic that's there because I'm sure at some point in the game, somebody may need to do that. It's not something I think you should want to do. Okay, this is buying and upgrading your trains, which is a viable option, but you don't want to do that right away. This one here is you're getting a contract. So this is taking a contract, which of course is something that some players definitely want to do. And then over here on the right, for every 10 bucks, you can get 1 influence. So you can move up the influence track. And that's what I was talking about. You could just spend 10 bucks to move up. And you can spend as many increments. You could do that as many times as you want. So you could spend 100 bucks and move up 10 spots if that's what you want to do. This one here is you can take resources from your factories and put them on your train. So it's basically you're generating resources. The factories are not producing new resources. So remember how I told you that this produces two cubes, right? And so if you produce 2 cubes with this, then you can take one of those 2 cubes and put them on your train or in your, you actually have an inventory spot here as well. So that's what this is saying. And you get to take 1 from every one of your factories. So if you have 5 factories out there, you can grab 5 resources. But just understand that the factories do not make new resources. They made whatever your worker was that you spent. So if this factory made 2 resources, like I said, that's all you have the whole game. So you get to, do, so if you take a resource from that factory, I'm sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied. If you take a resource from that factory, that's one of the two that it made. But what you're doing is you're taking it and loading it on your train so you could use it for other things. Like, why do you need resources on your trains? Well, that's how you pay for laying tracks and stuff like that. You can't use the resources on your factory to build tracks. The resources have to be on your train to build tracks. So there's stuff like that you need to do. We talked about this one. This is the build a factory or a train station. This one is the hire workers, which is the one we're going to do. So I'm going to put my little marker here. And this is lay track, which there's nothing wrong with trying to do that first. In fact, maybe that is what we want to do instead of hiring workers. And then here, this one is buying resources from the here. You can buy resources, and they would go on your train or in your area. So there's two ways to get resources, right? You can buy them from the market, or you can take them from your factory. Now, when you buy a resource, you can buy one and only one resource from here, and it's immediately available, okay? Or you can buy as many resources as on this token. And for this round, that number is 2. So you can buy 2 resources from here, and then what happens is it goes into your delivery pile, and it'll be delivered to you next round. It's not available to you immediately. It's going to be available to you next round. So it's basically on reserve. And of course, that's why those numbers up here matter, right? So those 2s are really weak. But when you get to the 4, 3, and 4 rounds, then you can buy a lot of resources all of a sudden. And so that's what I was getting at, is that I drew a whole bunch of crappy ones for the beginning. Okay, so I think when you watched, if you ever watched the John Gets Games or that other awesome guy, their playthrough, for example, the other awesome guy doesn't even do a playthrough. All he does is talk about the rules. John Gets Games will do stuff and say, well, I'll explain this later, And what I'm going to do is, like, I'm trying to do a little bit of both. I don't like the explain this later stuff, but I totally understand why he's doing it, because there's a lot there's a lot of rabbit holes you can get into here. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm changing my mind with teal. We're going to actually lay track, and I'll explain my logic on this. And the track laying costs a wood, a stone, and an iron. So you have to pay one of each. And you have to do so, what it says here is you get to lay 2 tracks, right, when you do that. Oh, you know what? I can't do that. That's why I need to hire workers. That's why. I just realized. Take a look at our cities here. You need 4, 4, 3, and 4. We only have 2 workers. So I can't connect to any of those cities. So I wasn't thinking. I apologize. My reasoning I wanted to connect to a city is, see here, this has a 1. The first person that gets there gets that, and then nobody else gets 1. And we already know that we might want to go this way. So I was like, well, maybe we need to go this way quicker, right? But I have to change my mind. We're going to build by workers, and let's get this done. Okay, so teal has $50. That's all teal has. And they're going to, remember, we can do green or brown. And it doesn't matter because all 4 players have influence over the same 2 cities. But we're going to go ahead and do green. And for $50, you pick, the way this works is you pick one column and you have to buy from that column. You can't say, okay, I'm going to buy this one for 10 and then this one for 10. You can't do that. So once you pick this column, this is the one you have to do your whole action with. Now later, if you do this action again, then you can pick a different column. Okay, so we're going to do one for 10. Okay, and then we're going to do another one for 20. So that's $30 total. And then this last one would be 30 more. But remember, only has 50 because Teal bid that extra $10 to go first. So really doesn't have enough money to get 3 workers, can only get 2. And those 2 workers cost $30. So we're going to spend 30 money. And now Teal only has 20 bucks left, and teal gets 2 workers. So you just grab 2 of their workers, and they go into the training area. So now teal has 4 level 1 workers, and 4 is enough to connect to a city. So it's still enough to get the job done. Okay? All right. And then I have a power cord connected to my camera, and look what it just did. So I'm going to pause real quick and fix my okay, I'm back. The disaster has been fixed, and we are now moving on to our turn, yellow. So we have the same predicament. We cannot connect to any other train. We could build a factory, but that's like the drafting a kicker in the first round. We don't need to do that in the first round. We want to get some of those cheap workers while we can. We have 60 bucks, and we're going to spend all 60, and it puts us down to 0. But we're going to buy 1 more worker than they were able to buy, and we will also go to the green city. So this is 1, 2, 3. So 30, 40, 50, 60 is how much we spent. And we're going to get 3 workers and put those here in the level 1 training. So we have 5 workers. Okay, so now we go to purple, which is the aggressive player. And for lack of a better thing to do, we're all going to be doing the same action. I really, this really is an ideal first action. There's a couple other things you could try to do. If, for example, one of these connecting cities had a 2 effort on them, then you could maybe lay down track first. But because they all have 3s and 4s, it's actually really difficult to do something else. So we're going to go ahead and go here. Oh, also, I want to mention that you could buy one of these engineers, and the cost for those engineers is 30 bucks. So, and they don't have to be from, so like if I hired workers from this column on the green city, I could buy an engineer from anywhere. It doesn't matter. I do have to have influence though. So right now it's only from green or brown, but as you can see, green has the grays and brown has the oranges. So if I wanted an orange one, even though I hired workers here, I could hire that orange one over there, no problem. It just costs 30 bucks to do. And 30 bucks right now is a lot of money, and I don't need an orange until we get down to here, or a gray until we get over here. There's, it's nothing but smooth sailing from Vienna. So we don't need one right away, and that's why we aren't doing it. Another rule. It is okay for players to continue to do the same action. So the fact that other players chose that action before you, there is no harm in that. The only harm that happens is if I want to do this action again the next round, or next turn, every time you place one of your markers there, you lose 1 influence for every other marker that's there. So in this case, I would go backwards 1 on the influence track. If both of these were here and I was placing a 3rd one, I would go backwards 2 on the influence track. So you lose influence by doing the same action twice in 1 round. But it's your markers. Their markers don't matter. It's only yours that you have to count. Okay? So let's keep going. We're going to do purple here. Purple has 60 bucks, and they're going to spend all 60. And I'm just going to jump ahead real quick because we already know the red player is going to do the same. And the red player also has 60 bucks and is going to do the same. And then we're just going to do both of their actions together. I already collected all their money. And basically, we're going to go to the brown city and go 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, like so. And so the red player is going to take 3 workers. So the only player who didn't get 3 was teal. And that was the price they paid to be able to go first. And right now, you might be thinking, well, so far, going first has no advantage. And you might be right. There probably is some advantage, especially when it comes to laying track, but right now there isn't. But next turn, they are going to show their advantage, which is right now, because we're back to the teal player. So we keep doing our actions until they're all spent up, and the teal player has 1 teal action here that's left, and what they're going to do is they're going to lay track. Well, are they? See, this is the part where I think some players play it differently than I do. So here's my concern. I'll explain to you what's my thoughts. You pay 1 wood, 1 iron, 1 stone. You get to lay 2 tracks, okay? If you can't afford to do 2 tracks, then you only get to do 1. But it's the same price in terms of resources. Everybody starts the game with enough resources to lay track. So that part's not a concern. But once you spend those resources, then what? You're going to have to figure out how to get those resources back. And that's the issue that I have, is you get to lay 2 tracks. So if I had, let's say I had 7 effort worth of workers, I could lay a track here to connect to here and then lay another track there to connect to the white hub. And that cost me 7 effort to do, but that cost me 3 resources. But if I only have enough effort to connect to one of the cities, which is the case now, because we only have level 1 workers and we have 4 of them, right? Teal does. So I can only connect to 1 city. I don't get to lay that next track, and it still costs me the same 3 resources. Does that make sense? So it's more efficient to be able to connect or lay down 2 tracks. And of course, the way that would work is you need higher trained workers. But the thing is that purple and teal are aggressive, more aggressive than red and yellow. So, for example, with our yellow player, we said we were going to train our workers. The way your workers train is if you don't use them, they move up. But if you use them, they go to here and they don't move up, okay? So you have to not lay track on a particular round, and not use them to lay the track, and then they will actually develop into the next level. So that's the idea. So if teal were to lay track, they're going to spend all their resources, and then that's it. They're done. And so this is a really interesting decision to make. So let's analyze the game board for a second so you can understand what I'm trying to decide. I am considering laying down track, and I know I can only connect to 1 city. That's fine. I still think it's worth it. Or I could just build a factory. That is still an option. The reason I want to maybe connect to a city is because I want to be the first to get a bonus. These are bonuses that are first come, first serve. So connecting to that city will be important. And why would you take first player if you aren't going to do that, right? The whole reason for taking first player is so you could be the first to go here. And so that's what I'm thinking of doing. I'm going to connect to Baden. I could connect to St. Polten up there. To move the camera up a little bit more, I could connect to this one, but the bonus is only a 1 instead of a 2. The 2 literally means you get to take 2 bonuses, and the 1 means you only get to take 1. Now, by connecting to St. Polten, the advantage to that is I only have 1 more connection to make to get to Amstetten, and that will let me be connected to a hub city, which would then let me deliver goods from my factories, all that good stuff. If I go to Baden, I'm still only 1 away. That is true. But this track here, you spend money for. This one, you have to spend resources for. So if I go to St. Polten, I can just connect to the hub city with money. Now, I only have 20 bucks. And to answer the question, like, how do I connect to that city with my money? By the way, that is, let's see, which action is that? It's one of the actions that you have to do. I think it's the lay track action. Yes, it's the lay track action. So if you did a lay track action here, basically you're going to spend 50 bucks because it's these 2 cities, the most expensive price on the 2 cities that you're connecting. So for 50 bucks, you'll connect there and you don't have to spend any resources at all. Now, why would you do that? If another player wants to spend money to connect there, and you are already there first, that other player has to spend $40 instead of $50. But they spend that $40 to you. You get the money. And of course, if there's 2 players there, and then a 3rd player wants to do it, they have to spend $40 to each. So it would cost them $80. So you could potentially make at least some of the money back. But I think what they're going to do is we are going to lay track, and we're going to connect to Baden, because I'm not as concerned about being connected to Amstetten. I'm more concerned about getting the bonuses. Now, what are these bonuses? What do you get to do? You get to do one of three things. The first thing you can do is you can flip over one of these train cars. So right now the train cars carry goods. You can see there's a little spot for a cube. If you flip it over, it then becomes a passenger car, which gives you 10 income during the income round or phase of the round. So this will let you make extra money just for free every round. And obviously the earlier you do it in the game, the longer you're going to make money, right? That's one thing you can do. Another thing you get to do is you get to move up here, right? You get to move up one, and you don't have to pay the influence penalty. So you just move your stock up one spot for every business bonus you spend. The third thing you get to do is you get to just move up on the influence track. So if I got 3 influence, I'm already able to connect to the blue hub city. So I'm going to think about this some more, about exactly where I want to go. The advantage to Baden is that you're going to get 2 of those bonuses. I just need to find out, like, what is Teal's strategy here. I gotta refine my AI here. For example, Teal is not going to sell stock. We said that, right? Won't sell stocks. So Teal sees no benefit in raising their stock value. Like, this doesn't help them. So they don't need that bonus. They don't need to flip over cars to generate income, because that's not their strategy. And so the only thing that they would be using it for is to move this up, and I don't know if that's worth it. So I got to think it through. So let me think on it. I'm going to go get something to drink because I've been chatting a bunch, and I will pause it. I'll be right. Okay, I actually spent a lot more time thinking about this than I should have. But I'm basically going to connect to St. Polten, which will only give me 1 bonus instead of 2. But the logic here is the Teal player wants to connect via money. And I didn't discuss this yet, but there are free actions in the game. There's 3 of them. One of them is to sell your shares. That's the top one. This bottom one is to lay your track using the government money, which is what I'm talking about. So where that little golden crown is, so right here. And so that's a free action to do. Now, we could do that this turn, except you need $50, and we only have $20 right now. And one of the things that I was deliberating is, what am I going to use that bonus action for, or this business bonus, right? That little token. And then how am I going to get the $50 if I do this? And I do have a plan, and it's actually, I am going to spend an action just collecting $10, but that will get me there. And I can go to Amstetten by the next round. I'll be connected to the I think that's the brown hub city, which is one of the ones we have influence over. So it's a really great city to connect to. So that's Teal's plan. And also remember that Teal is 1 above the brown city. So if Teal delivers goods to the brown city and moves this up, Teal will still have the appropriate influence with them. Everybody else does not. Now, so that is my idea, and I'm going to, so the action itself requires us to spend 1 of each resource, except for the coal, so we have 1 of each. So those just go, back into the pool. So we spend our resources, and then, as you can see here, that is 4 effort. That radial star there on the top left of St. Polten, right there is 4. So all 4 of their workers are going to be used to create 4 effort worth of production. And then we're going to go ahead and grab a Teal track and lay it right here. Now, there is an advantage to being first in everything. If anybody else wants to connect to St. Polten, they can, but they have to pay Teal $10 because Teal already has track there. And you have to pay $10 to every other player that's there before you. So, then being the first to connect to this city, this gets unlocked. And so this just gets discarded. But basically, you get 1 bonus. Now, that one bonus is, like I said, they could move up one here. They can move this one up without penalty here, so they can make their stock higher. Or they're going to do this action, and this is the one they're going to do. They're going to take one of these 3 cars and flip it over to a passenger car, and now that will generate 10 income, along with this 10 income for the train station for the rest of the game. And that's what the teal player is going to do. And so then we move on to us with the yellow player. And what are we going to do now? We laid our track. Do we really want to go the way of teal and start moving west? The other city we have influence over is green, which is also west, right? It's way down here. The blue and white cities they're like a light year ahead of us, and they're, of course, on the right. There's a lot of temptation for me to go right because everybody else is going west. So let's go east, or let's do something else. One of the things we can do is by connecting to W.R. Neustadt, we will get an influence for free. So we'll move up to 90 on the influence track. And so that gets us a little bit closer to connecting to that blue and white city that we want to eventually connect with. The hard part is I don't know what to do from there. And it's still going to be, I think, difficult for us to do. So my thoughts is since teal went here, I want to go here and take the 2 bonuses before anybody else can. And then that also locks me west. So if the other 2 players want to go west, they're either going to have to pay teal, or they're going to have to pay me, or they're going to have to go a really long way around. Now, the other option is that we did say that we wanted to train our workers. So if I do go to Baden, I'm going to spend 4 of my workers, and I'm not going to be training them. And so maybe that's not the move I want to do. So then what else would I do? Well, one of the things I would like to do is maybe get some resources, but I only have room for 1 more resource, so can't do that. So then what else would I do? I could create a factory, which, a factory is never a bad thing. I'm not doing it with the most trained of workers, but it is a possibility. That's where I have a lot of struggle with how exactly I want to, move forward. We could buy. So let me think about this. I will pause. Okay, so I thought it over some, and I really only have a couple options. First of all, I have no money, none. So I can't do anything that spends money. So this action's out. There's no factory to produce anything, so I have no resources to take. I can't take a contract because if I do, I have to reserve spots, and all my spots are filled. So I don't want to do that. Let me put the camera down here. I don't want to raise my stock because I don't want my influence to go down. To build either the train station or the factory, that costs me money. I don't have any. I already bought workers. That cost me money. Can't do it again. This one lets me buy resources either immediately or later, but buying costs money. I don't have any. I can lay track. That's the only thing so far that I can even do. Or I can pass, or I can take $10. Okay, so if I lay track, then the cheapest track I can lay is going to require 3 of my workers to be used. Now, my strategy I wanted to try in this game is what if I train my workers immediately? And so the idea is that I'm not going to lay track in the first round. I'm going to let my workers go up to level 2. So then they're going to do 2 effort each. So it takes 3 of these for 3 effort, 4 of these for 4 effort, right? But if I wait until the next round, I can lay track for 4 effort by only spending 2 of these, right? Because they're going to be 2 each. So they're going to have double the power. And so now I can connect the 2 cities, this one for 4 effort and that one for 4 effort, and I can connect the 2 for the same resources. And that's what I want to try. I want to see how that strategy works. Because in my limited experience with this game, everybody was like, well, laying track is really the only option. And then you try to do it right away because this is very attractive, laying track attractive, This is very attractive because you'll get the 2 bonuses. So if you're the first one to connect, you get the 2 bonuses. And then also you're locking up the pathway to the west because everybody wants to go to the hub that everybody can connect to or have influence over. So there's a lot of very strong strategic reasons to go here. And for me to be stubborn and stick with my AI strategy is challenging because the game may not be dictating for me to do what I'm about to do. So what I'm about to do is I'm going to stick with my strategy. I want to see how this plays out. So I want all of these workers to go to level 2. I don't want to spend any of them. And I just explained to you that the only option available is to lay track because I have no money. So I'm either going to pass or collect 10 bucks. So I'm going to take the 10 bucks. What a crazy first round. That is something I was telling you, if I hadn't said it, I would have, that's a waste of an action. And here I am wasting an action, but I'm wasting an action to deliberately get my workers to a higher level. So that's, I don't know if that's the right thing to do, but I'm trying to stay true to my AI here because I really want to see how this strategy plays out. I know I explained this 3 times, and I'm saying it for a 4th time just because I'm trying to keep my own sanity. This seems like something I wouldn't do in a real game. But I definitely want to see how this plays out. So let's see if this becomes a disaster, really a waste of action, or maybe having this extra 10 bucks is going to be like the best thing since sliced bread. So we're going to find out. All right, so yellow player is done. That means next player up is purple. Now, purple is the aggressive player, and purple doesn't care about training their workers, and purple will for sure do. The Trump player thinks that we were dumb, so they're going to for sure go there and spend their 3 resources, 1, 2, and 3. Go there, and they're going to grab a trek, and they're going to go to Baden because that's the strategic advantage that we gave them. And so they're thinking, the universe, that we did not do that before them. And so they get 2 bonuses for connecting. And they will use both of their bonuses to make their stock go up. 1, 2, and they don't have to pay the penalty. So purple is now up to 90. They don't have the investors yet, but that will come. That will come. They're trying to get this up so they're going to actually cash it out and get some big bucks. So connecting to these cities with these blue tokens are extremely important for the purple player's strategy. And so by me playing out my strategy with yellow, that allowed purple to play out their strategy. So there's a part of me that I like the experiment of this, and that each of the players are going to get to try out their strategy, and the opening round is already working out in their favor. So the purple player there connects to Baden, and that's all they can do. Oh, one final thing. The effort there is 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4 workers have to go up, and 1 worker will eventually be able to train. So they will get to train 1 of their workers. The other 4, though, did not. And then last but not least is the red player, who also has no money and needs to lay track. And so the red player is thinking, everybody's going west. I don't know if I want to go west. The red player needs to get to the simmering token, and the simmering token is here. So they want to eventually connect to that. Now, one way to easily do that is to go to Baden. And now they'll have to pay Trump 10 bucks to lay that track. And they don't have 10 bucks, so they cannot connect to Baden this round. But what they could do is try to connect to Bratislava or WR Neustadt. Now, one other thing that Trump wanted to do was connect to Bratislava over there, because that is 2 factory locations. See, there's 2 factory spots there. So there is benefit to connect that way. But there was no benefit on doing it immediately, because there's still 5 factory spots up at the top. So the only real option then is to connect there. And the red player has the exact same problem everybody else has. Since he has no money, none of these actions are helpful. So he's going to lay track And so we will come over here and grab the resources. And we're going to spend 3 workers. And then 2 of them are going to stay down, right? And we don't get any bonuses other than we're going to connect to this WR Neustadt, all right? And in doing so, that did cost 1 less worker, so that's fine. But we're going to get 1 influence. So that is going to move red up to there, which actually makes them higher in the player order the next round. You know, is that a huge advantage? Probably not, especially since red is trying to go a different direction than everybody else. But that's neither here nor there right now. The big thing here is that they just wanted to go somewhere different. They didn't have the money to share track with anybody. So it was either go get the +1 influence or connect to the place with the 2 factories. And factories isn't really their game. They're not trying necessarily to do factories. They do want these things though, because they want to get passenger cars going. But that's the other strategy for red, is red wants to go a different direction. So, you know, there's like 6 points worth of stuff here that they can maybe suck up because everybody else is going this way. Red does have a challenge though. You know, the influence needs to go way up to be able to do business, but we'll see. Like I said, I'm trying to mold to the AIs, and it's an interesting strategy. But given the situation where he had no money, this really was his only option, to lay track or to pass. And he definitely did not want to pass because he thinks that we were stupid to collect $10. So he's going to at least lay down his track. And that leaves us with the position of, if we lay track, we have to pay $10 now to one of them, or we're going to go that way, right? Because that's the only pathway that's available to us where there's no track currently being laid. Now, the one advantage we have is we're the only one that has resources to lay track. So next round, nobody else is going to be able to lay any more track. They're going to need a couple, you know, actions to build up their resources to be able to do that again. So that's the one advantage we have over them is, yeah, they were first to get out. They were first to get their bonuses, but now they're stuck and they're going to have to wait. And we have some pretty nice options to get out there and you know, connect to various things. And I just don't know what those things are going to be yet, but there is definitely some nice options. All right, so that brings us to the end of the first round. The final step of the round, of course, is to check for endgame. That, of course, did not get triggered. And we're going to move on to round 2. I'm at 1 hour and 13. I will go ahead and end here, and then we will start the next round in the next video. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay awesome.